Finding life a bit complex? Confusing? Aware that your old strategies aren't working? Why not ask Pam and Marilyn? This is the Irreverent Therapists, and we're here to add some clarity, humor, and a bit of what might be considered blasphemy to your day.
And welcome everybody to the Irreverent Therapists. I'm Pam Hodeling, and with me is Marilyn Bradford. Hi, Marilyn.
And I am here. How does it get any better than that?
I always hold my breath. Will Marilyn be there?
Well, now I want you to know that's not because I'm irresponsible. It's something else. It's Pam's paranoia.
It's my technical paranoia.
Technical paranoia.
Hey, we should do a show on paranoia.
We should do a show on paranoia. Why not? Most people have a little bit of it at least.
Yep. Just checking. I remember there was a book called that. Just checking.
Just checking.
Checking the stove, checking the locks, checking that Marilyn's on the line.
Yes, and she is. How does it get any better than that?
So this week our show is perhaps I overdid it. Even though the season is only just starting, you might have overdid it already. 'Tis the season of excess, spending more than we can afford, eating and drinking beyond the desires of our body, indulging in family dramas, and generally cutting ourselves off from what we know to be true for ourselves. It's said that people gain debt and 10 pounds over the holidays. What if you could come into the new year with no regrets or extra burdens? What if you could make choices that were a contribution to you and your future, no matter what was going on around you? So I think this is such a timely conversation. I am so glad we're doing this.
Well, it's interesting, Pam, because I was thinking I'm very aware of all my own excesses, but I don't think of you as a person that has excesses particularly.
So you're not around 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, okay. That's what the deal is.
Eating a few munchies.
I suppose we all have our times.
Well, I mean, and I think of so many different ways in which we do excess at this time of year. I mean, whether it's you have the point of view, you have to buy gifts for everybody, and, even if you don't feel like you have the money. I can remember, when my husband and I were, starting out, and we wanted to be buying presents for people, and again and again, each year we would spend more than we had, and it did not feel good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, when I wrote this and what you were reading it, you were talking about just the season of excess. And I was thinking about how originally, and I may be way off base here, but that's all right. Originally, it was supposed to be a season of hope, of possibilities, whether it was the pagan and just the hope that spring would come again, the days would lengthen, the sun would come out, the winter would go away, or whether it's the promise of Jesus or whatever it is. It's originally essentially a season of hope, of new possibilities in the future, of wealth and of abundance in the future. I'm gesturing, which is my voice is going away. That's why. I'm being very Italian here. But somehow we've turned that hope of abundance in the future into excess now. It's like we've taken it down to the lowest common denominator. Yeah. As if that's going to represent the same thing. Anyway, that's my philosophical thought for the day.
I think that's a really cool observation. I can remember when I was a kid, and now what I remember from being a kid is things were, there was a lot of Christmassy stuff going on, but it wasn't like it is today.
No, exactly.
We've really gone over the top in recent years, as a culture. But I think it was the book Little Women. And I remember reading that, and they were very poor. And, there was one Christmas, and, they were each making one thing to give somebody else.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, how nice would just the simplicity of, what is this time of year really about for me and what I like to do rather than all the trappings of what's expected. And, actually as a not so much young adult, but middle adult. I don't know, somewhere in my 30s probably, I started really looking at what works. I didn't have these words for it, but what works for me and what doesn't work for me around the holidays, and really including what does and getting rid of what doesn't. And that changed a lot of that. It's like everyone around me is doing excess, but I don't need to do excess.
Well, that's really a thing. That's like, I mean, I think that one of the things that happens to people with the excess is they go into automatic pilot. It's like, oh, it's the holidays. You're not doing your normal routine of maybe taking a jog in the morning, going to the office, doing blah, blah, blah. You've got all this other stuff. And the way that many people handle it is just to go on automatic pilot. And one of the things I've noticed with all my work at addiction and compulsive behavior is that it's automatic pilot is one of the things that people get into when they overdo it. Mm-hmm. Their awareness, their being present goes out the window, and it's like, yeah, 8 more cookies. Yeah. 6 more drinks. Yeah. Spend more money. And it becomes this kind of, this just cycle.
And I mean, if, our show last week, if you guys haven't listened to it yet, you can listen to that. That was the Ghost of Christmas Past. And we were going into a lot of the emotional family baggage kinds of stuff around the holidays. And, if you have any of that, if your family is not the easiest people to be around, and, there's things that come up for you around this time of year, going on autopilot is what we tend to do to try to just deal with the whole thing.
Actually, to survive. I think.
To survive. And so listen to our show last week because we gave you other ways of surviving than going on autopilot. But, it's like, how many people do you know who feel very relaxed, joyful, expansive, rested, and just happy at this time of year?
Let me see. I think there was one in Lubbock in 1935.
I was going to say, there's you and me. And even I have my moments.
Oh, me too. I'll tell you.
But, it's like most people aren't taking care of themselves in the way of getting really present with what this time of year is for them and what works for them and what doesn't. It's the go on autopilot and the food's here and people are bringing all these treats to the office or whatever it is. I remember at one point as a social worker, I was working in a hospital. Actually, I've done that a couple of different times in my social work career. And at the holidays, all the everything that has to do with medical care after the hospital. So the home health things and the medical equipment and the this and the that, they'd all come by and bring us goodies. And it was just...
It's bribe time, I think.
Bribe time. It's, but the point is, they would say, hey, we're here. And they would do that by food. And so you'd go to work and there was just cookies and donuts and candy, all this stuff. And so, it tends to be that everybody's putting out a whole lot more of that kind of stuff, and it's right there. And if you're on autopilot, you're just eating it. You're just drinking the wine, eating the food, whatever it is.
Yeah. And also, there's almost this sense, so many people, I'm getting quite philosophical, but so many people live in a sense of poverty, and it may not be actual poverty in terms of money, but poverty in terms of their lives, little lives that maybe, how we only use what it is, like 9% of our brain or something. I think a lot of people only use about 10% of their being. Mm-hmm. And we're also taught that fulfillment comes from the outside. Yeah. So it's almost like all this stuff is here. You just want to stuff your face because maybe you'll feel better. Maybe you'll have a sense of abundance or wealth by stuffing yourself or overspending or overdoing it. I have certainly done that myself. So
I've never done that, Marilyn.
Good to hear, Pam. You can be our shining example.
Well, I know we're coming up on a break soon, but what you just said, it's like, so there's the looking outside of you for some sense of well-being or who you are, or you're okay, you're accepted, whatever it is. And then there's the not wanting to deal with.
Yeah.
Where the crap is that comes up at this time of year. And it's a double whammy of cut yourself off, shut down your awareness, and go on automatic and get through. I know so many people who the holidays are a time to get through.
Yes, exactly.
And then even the people who enjoy their families and kind of enjoy the holidays tend to get so stressed about all the things going on and all the activities and all the shopping to do or whatever it is they've decided they need to do. That again, even though they enjoy it, they're glad it's here, they enjoy the people they're with, there's this level of stress that goes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like we've been saying, I think the excess is in big part just trying to get through it all.
Yep, trying to survive. It's also, we can come back and talk about this after the break, but I also want to bring up how it's odd, but when most of us go on autopilot or get stressed, we separate from our body. And I think there's a lot about overdoing it that has to do with that separation from our body, because we become so out of touch with what the body actually requires or desires.
Yeah. Well, I'm writing that down so that when we come back, I remember to start us off with that, because I think that is a great place to go next.
Alrighty.
Because that has to do with all those extra pounds people put on over the holidays.
Right.
So we will be back in a few moments with, perhaps I overdid it.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she's feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Irreverent Therapists, where we are talking about, perhaps I overdid it. And we were just before the break, Marilyn, you were talking about kind of autopilot and what we do to our bodies when we go on autopilot. So let's talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to realize to begin with that this is a culture that encourages us to disconnect from our bodies and to impose on our bodies, like impose very strict dietary regimes, impose exercise, impose health regimes. I was running someone's bars yesterday, and they were talking about their ex-daughter-in-law, whom they're still friendly with. But she imposes, now this happens to be strict vegetarianism, no this, no that, on her children, And it was very hard for me to say, wow, maybe they could learn to ask their bodies. But the point is that people get this idea of what their bodies should do, and there's not much education about actually connecting with your body and asking the body what it desires.
Yeah.
And I think this comes to a head on the holidays on something, because the more the being is stressed, the less it's actually willing to be aware of what's going on with the body. And that compulsive eating or compulsive spending is something to try to get the being to feel better or to get through it. But the body is really the one that suffers from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'll talk about an experience I had the other day, because I would say I am someone who, well, maybe more than a lot of people, because I have the access tools.
Right.
I ask my body questions and check in and things. It's still a place where I do a lot of not asking questions and just kind of deciding and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, the other day, and Marilyn knows, I don't cook. I prepare. Let's put this together.
It's true.
And the other day, I got this cookbook that I was reading. I was like, for whatever reason, reading this book, it's basically my body said, get this book. So I did. And I started reading, and I'm like, why am I getting a cookbook? I don't cook. And I went out to the store and I bought, stuff to cook like 3 or 4 of the meals in the book. And I've been doing that. And the difference in the space of me just going like, oh, I have to eat something because it's dinner time, which is no question. What can I eat? That's, what's in the fridge that I can just grab easily, right? That's not a space of expansion and possibilities, but that's where I usually eat from. And then, this space that came when I was reading this cookbook, it was just actually being able to be aware, what would my body like to eat? And I'm making frazzled greens and rice and soup and chili.
Yeah, I'm coming, Pam. I had no idea.
Yeah, come on over for dinner, Marilyn. But like, to me, it was so different to not go to the conclusions of it's time to eat because it's dinner time.
Right.
And it's like, and I know this, I'm an access facilitator. I know this stuff, but my body is the place I don't apply it as readily. And, so to actually start to have that space as we're going into the holidays, and rather than just, time to eat some cookies. Actually be like, well, would my body even like some cookies? And if so, maybe I'll bake them,
Yeah.
It's a very different space.
Well, that sounds really good. And I think one of the things you're talking about, I mean, it's a little bit late for this year, but maybe not, is that if you actually create, and it can be a habit. If you create a habit of listening to your body, of being in question, of asking, then you're going into the holidays with tools in place and a sense. When we create a habit, we get a sense of an energy of it, like the energy of asking your body, oh, do you actually desire this? Whether it's muscle testing or just the awareness. And you can call up that energy when you're in like an office party situation or other things. So if you can't do that because you haven't established the habit yet, what you can do, and
wait.
All right. You go, and then I'll go.
I am gonna say, wait a second on this whole habit thing. I actually think you could start choosing it right this moment.
All righty.
Even if you haven't developed the habit of asking your body.
Well, I was going to say something like that before I was so.
We're so rudely interrupted.
I rudely interrupted. What I was going to say
I didn't want everybody to think, well, I didn't get started soon enough. I can't try this. It's like, no, any moment you can try it. You can choose it. So go ahead. Sorry. What were you saying?
What I was going to say was that the question I give people who are working with addictions is, or not, the question and the, what I want to call it, the action is every time you go, whatever your quote weakness is, whether it's cookies or ice cream or buying wrapping paper, whatever, when you go to do that, ask yourself, if I wasn't doing this, what would I be aware of?
Oh, I love this tool.
Yeah, if I wasn't reaching for that 8th cookie, what would I be aware of? And that can help you actually begin to come back to your body. You can also, if you go, you know what, I don't care, I'm eating, or, I'm going to have that 3rd glass of wine. What I say is drink with awareness, spend with awareness. Questions you can ask are questions like, okay, if I have this 3rd glass of wine, what will that create? And it can just be an energy. It can be like, I'm not going to be able to drive home, and that's a drag, and I have to leave my car at the office. But it can also be this, oh, gosh, that's kind of the energy. Maybe I won't choose that. What else could I choose?
Yeah.
What else is possible here? And that's the thing. When we tend to give ourselves over to overindulgence, there's, on some level, it's almost like we've decided that this is the only action we can take that's going to be satisfactory in any way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So...
yeah. Well, and I just want to point out, like, so say it is, you're like, okay, 3rd glass of wine, if I choose to drink this, what will that create? It might be that you're aware the energy of what it's going to create is kind of crap. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm going to choose it anyway. I want this glass of wine. I'm going to have it. But it creates something different when you're basically in that moment, you're choosing from awareness. You're like, yes. Okay, I'm aware this is going to create crap energy wise for me, and I'm still going to do it. That's different than being on autopilot and never asking the question and never having the awareness.
Yes, that's really a good point, Pam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's like, when we're talking about overindulgence and stuff like that, I mean, neither Marilyn or I have a point of view about what's too much. Like, it's not
right.
It's not that, 2 glasses of wine is fine and 3 glasses is not. It's truly, I mean, to be, okay, Marilyn, you can tell me if you agree with this or not. The overindulgence is really not about a quantity. It's about being aware of what you're choosing or not being aware of what you're choosing. Because you could be totally aware, asking questions, your body's saying, yes, drink 4 glasses of wine or eat 8 cookies, and that's cool. It's when you're just shoving stuff in your mouth or you're spending money like crazy with no awareness, no question, no willingness to be aware of what you're creating with this. But even with the asking of questions, there is no right or wrong about what you choose. It's, are you willing to be aware of what you're choosing and what it's creating?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful point. This afternoon, I was working with a client, and she's in a very difficult marriage. And she's aware that she drinks because she hasn't quite figured out how to get out of the marriage. But anyway, so she went on a bender, just a 1-day bender, and she said, everybody's judging me and talking about, and we've been working for a while, and talking to me about, I'm an alcoholic, I'm this and that. And she said, actually, for the first time I looked at it and I just went, you know what? I just chose to drink a lot, and now I'm really hungover. That may not have been my smartest choice, but it's the only way I could deal with Alan. I mean, I made up the name, but you get what I mean.
Yes.
And I think that's such a healthier way. And then we talked about, it's like, okay, if you truly are living in 10-second increments, you can choose that again or not.
Yeah.
But it's not like, oh my God, now I'm an alcoholic and now I have to do this. And it's not about coming to conclusion and making all these decisions and judgments that lock you up permanently and don't actually allow for any change or choice.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool what she went to with that. I was totally impressed.
Oh, that is. And it's, it's so, we started out talking about how so often we look outside ourselves for fulfillment or the okayness or whatever it is. If you're looking to outside of you to the definitions that everyone else uses,
yes,
you're lost. Like there is
totally, yeah.
If you're willing to
well, I'm going to stop you because I want people to really, that was almost a throwaway.
Okay.
Listen to what you just said because it's brilliant. If you're looking to definitions outside of you, there is no you.
Yeah.
I think that's really a crucial point.
Yeah. Well, and okay, tell me if I get this wrong, but a lot of what I've heard you talk about with Right Recovery for You is it's when there is no you, and then people look to the alcohol or the food or the cocaine or whatever they get addicted to as a way of trying to have themselves.
Well, it is a little. Well, one of the things that the alcohol does, or the drug, or whatever it is, in the more moderate amounts before they get totally gone, is it creates. It almost helps to suppress taking on all these other identities, all the projections, expectations, rejections, separation, judgments, conclusions, implants, explants from other people. So it does give a brief window of, oh, I feel pretty good, really. I've had 2.5 drinks, and yeah, I'm an okay person. I'm not all those horrible things those people have said to me.
Yeah.
So it does do that. Then in greater amounts, whether it's drugs or whatever, it helps to deaden the pain of all of the judgments of being wrong and not fitting in and not knowing how to do it and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it actually does a couple of different things, sort of depending where you are in the cycle.
Well, and I do want to right now give a plug for Marilyn. She's the founder of Right Recovery for You, and it's a totally different way of dealing with addictions and the things that we do to cut off ourselves. And you have a website these days, right? Right Recovery.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, so check it out. Good for the holidays to have those resources. And we'll be back in a few moments.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapists for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodeling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Irreverent Therapist, where we're talking about, perhaps I overdid it. And Marilyn, I was going to say, we've been talking about our bodies and how we overdo it that way. I also want to make sure we hit on money. And,
okay.
Because it's like, that's another way that we tend to overdo it at the holidays. Spending more money than we feel we can, or just different kinds of things like that. And having said that, my mind just went blank. Oh my goodness.
Say, what would you like to say about money, Pam?
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to say it. That's all.
Well, I think once again, as I was talking in the beginning, that how we've transformed sort of hope and the possibilities of abundance in the future into overindulgence, we've transformed. I mean, and it's so trite to say it, but it's true. It's like we don't know how to show. A lot of times we either don't know how or don't desire to show true true, whatever it is, gratitude for another person. Yeah. So we just do it with money.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people just don't know what else to do. So they do it with money.
I'm supposed to give a gift. I have no idea what to give them. So here's a gift card.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I made cookies for some people who are very dear to me, and actually spent quite a bit of time and had a great deal of fun with it and did some new recipes and things. And these are people that are impossible to buy for. They're both millionaires. So it's like, what do you get them? A sapphire-studded money clip? Well, I don't think I could do that. So I went to, and I think that cookies should be fresh. I bake them and freeze them. I only do cookies that can be frozen except to the last day. And that way, then I ship them. I overnight them so that they'll be fresh when they get there. So the cost for packing and shipping these cookies was $125. And the guy's looking at me like I'm half nuts. I'm like, look, it's a better present. I could spend $125 and not get them anything that they would care about. But they love these cookies, or I think they do enjoy them. And so it was an interesting use of money, very different from the kind of, okay, I have $100 to spend on this person and $75 to spend on this person. And, we recently we have a dinner group, and I have to admit, I kind of balked at the idea of you were supposed to bring a gift worth not less than $35. And it wasn't the money. It was that sense of, I don't know what it was, Pam.
I know. I did the same thing. I was like, I'm coming, but I'm not doing the whole gift thing.
Did you go, actually?
Actually, I didn't, because I had a sick kid. I had a throwing up kid. But, no, but what it came from is like, I totally enjoy and care about these people.
Yes, they're awesome people.
And they're the people who I can most be myself with and not buy into all the baggage of the world.
Yes.
And it was like superimposing this thing about the holidays onto that group was like,
oh, I'm glad you clarified that, because yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, because it wasn't anything about, I don't want to spend $35. I mean, I'd happily spend way more than that on anybody in that group.
Right.
If it was coming for me from a place of, I'm delighted to create something that I know they'll enjoy.
Exactly.
But from, I have to now think of something to give them just to do it.
It was weird. You know what it was for me? It was vibrationally incompatible with what that group has been.
Yeah.
It really was.
So, when I went blank, when I brought up the money thing, now I'm not blank anymore. I think for me, the money at the holidays is kind of also last week when we were talking about families and the holidays, it's similar, but it's like, it's one of the places where it's the expectations and the projections about what should be and what you have to do, like totally goes against what you're aware of and what you like to create.
Yes, that makes sense.
Right? Because it's like, if everyone you're connected to in your extended family is expecting a big package of presents for everyone, and you're the only one who chooses to not do that,
you're a bad girl.
You're a bad girl. But it's like there's so many points of view about the holiday, whatever your religion is, whatever, I don't think you can escape the whole holiday thing.
Right.
And there's so many points of view about what should be, what you have to do, what's expected. And I think people just go, blah!
Yeah, I think you're right.
And either, there's people who reject it and don't want to deal with it. And there's people who try really hard to navigate it and come up with something. But to me, all of it has to do with negating you.
Yeah, it's one time of the year. I mean, mostly none of us get recognized or acknowledged for who we are anyway. But it is the one time of the year where you really don't count. It's all about the role and the part that you play. And you as a being, as an individual with awareness in this and that, that doesn't mean squat.
So I think that's a thing that actually needs more talking about, because again, you could just toss that out there, but can you say more about?
Well, I think most of us who are looking for awareness, so we're quote seekers, we have at some point at least looked for acknowledgement or looked for a sense of, so who am I actually? If I'm not a Jew, a Christian, a man, a woman, an American, an Australian, who am I? What is this being that I am? And we've all gotten the put into box by the parents or the school or the church or the country or the whatever it is. You're this, you're that, you're that. And there's always this kind of almost conflict for a lot of people about truly being them or fitting in and, being what their partner or parents or school or whatever wants them to be, even though it doesn't feel very good. Mm-hmm. I think that's exponentialized at the holidays.
Yeah.
You are the daughter of the family. You need to come home. You are the secretary. You need to buy presents for everybody, or you're part of this group. You need to do what they say you're going to do to celebrate.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the tools of access that Marilyn and I use a lot, and you've heard us talk about this if you've listened to the show, is heavy and light. So if something's true for you, you tend to feel like light, more expansive, greater possibilities. It's like this nice feeling, right? If somebody's talking about something and there's a lie in it for you, it'll feel very heavy, right? So like as you're talking about all the expectations and all the things you have to fit into, it's like, drag me across the floor. This is so heavy. Which tells you like all that stuff is crap. You're the daughter, you have to come home, and you're the and it's our choice to buy into that or not. And, what people tend to feel like is only available is I'm buying into it or I'm totally rejecting it and I'm going against what's expected. And there's actually a different possibility, which is much easier and lighter, which is to be an allowance of all the expectations. Like you're aware of them, they're there, your mom or your dad or your brother or your boss or whatever it is, has all these expectations, and you actually ask yourself questions and look at what works for you rather than having to either go right along with the program or totally reject it.
I think that's a really good point. And I also get that it's difficult for people. It's such unknown territory, number one, to choose for them or to even become aware of what works for them.
Yeah.
But number two, to go against the grain, to actually say, you know what? it doesn't work for me to go home. It doesn't work for me to go and stay at home. I mean, I've done a lot of work with clients around the holidays, and what I ask is, what is it that you absolutely feel that you have to do? And sometimes it's go home. So then we look at, okay, how could you change this? Could you stay at a hotel? Could you limit the amount of time you're there? You know, could you blah, blah, do this, do that? So some of it is getting really clear with yourself, and we're kind of back to last week's topics. But you can use that same thing as, how much money do I actually have to spend? And would I be okay finding ways so that would work? And even if I'm judged, you know, not making me wrong for knowing what's actually going to work for me.
Yeah.
So that's a very different approach than just sort of either resisting and reacting and going off to Tahiti for 3 weeks or, you know, or lining, oh yeah, I have to do it. I don't have a choice. I feel like terrible, but, you know, everybody's going to hate me.
I'm going to rack up tons of credit card debt and be miserable and hate myself, but I have to do it for the family.
I have to do it, exactly. And I'm going to gain 15 pounds and feel like my body's going to feel terrible.
Cookies to get myself through it. Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to point out, because, you know, this segment, we're talking a lot about points of view. And
yes,
one of the powerhouse tools that we have as access facilitators is the access clearing statement. And you can actually, you know, learn about it. You can go to theclearingstatement.com and find out more about it. But basically, the clearing statement, it's like you ask a question, you bring up that energy, and the clearing statement, like, just wipes it out of existence, whatever that limitation, that point of view was. And so you can use this, like, you know, say you're like, okay, I'm hearing what they're saying, but some part of me is still saying I've got to buy all these presents, right? So it just, everything that is, everywhere I decided I have to buy presents, no matter what it does to my finances, that point of view, I'm going to destroy and uncreate it times a godzillion. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Or, you know, everywhere I'm judging myself for what I am and I'm not doing, I'm going to destroy and uncreate it times a godzillion. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. So we'll get to more of that when we come back to talk about how I overdid it.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dana Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show. where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Irreverent Therapists. I had myself on mute. I didn't come in quite so quickly. I said, welcome back. And then I finally realized what was going on. Where we're talking about, perhaps I overdid it. And right as we went to the break, I was just telling people about the clearing statement. So, Marilyn, is there anything you want to say about how to use the clearing statement, or how you like to use it, or clearings you like for this time of year?
Well, I use it whenever a kind of a wonky energy comes up, like I'm like, oh, that's really, what is that? And I'll just go, and you don't even have to know what it is. I'll just go, everything that is, I destroy and create times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, puck, pot, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. I use it anytime I find myself having a real point of view about someone or something. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I have a point of view or have a judgment about that, I destroy and create it times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, power, put on shorts, boys, and beyonds. And I think it's particularly useful in the holidays, around the holidays, with all the shoulds and oughts.
Yeah.
Where I've decided I should be this way, or I should go to this party, or I ought to do this. I destroy and create times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good, bad, power, put on shorts, boys, and beyonds. Because if you've locked in those shoulds and oughts, you can't really see any other options.
Yes. Yeah. And you can even do things like, so what points of view have I bought from my family about the holidays?
Yeah, exactly.
You ask that question a certain.
That's a great one.
And then you go, okay, so everything that is destroyed or created times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. You know, another great tool to use at this time of year is to destroy and uncreate your relationship with people.
Yes, that's a good one.
You know, and this doesn't mean you're going to go home and divorce your spouse. What it is if I destroy and uncreate my relationship with you, it's like all the baggage, all the expectations, all the projections, everything that from the past that I'm bringing forward into this relationship, I'm destroying and uncreating that so that I can see you today brand new. Who are you? Who am I? We're being present with each other. And it's really simple. I can just say, Marilyn, everything my relationship with you is destroy and uncreate it times a godzillion.
Yes.
Good and bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. You can destroy and uncreate your relationship with money, with the holidays, with your family, with the people in your family, with, presents and gift giving and, any aspect of this. You can destroy and uncreate your relationship with it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, Pam. And another thing that I want to talk about, and I'm getting away from the clearing statement here, but is what to do if you have, in fact, overindulged. And one of the things that I'd like to say is, we're asking to destroy and uncreate all the shoulds and oughts. What if you also were willing to destroy and uncreate, because, we're not going to get into destructor plates, just destroy and uncreate any reactions of shame, guilt, regret, and any of the things that actually prevent you from being aware of what was actually going on with your choices.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, because it's like, so say you did overindulge, you drank a whole lot at the party or whatever. It's like, what we tend to do is then go judge ourselves. Oh, I can't believe I overdid it. I wasn't going to do that this year. I promised myself I wouldn't do that again.
Right, exactly.
And you can go down the rabbit hole of judgment. And so one is the clearing statement you can use on any judgment. So it's like, everywhere I'm judging myself for this, just create it times a godzillion. And like, Marilyn said, all those blame and shame things. It's like, it might sound so simple, but if you actually just try this, use the clearing statement, it so lights things up and it creates a huge amount of difference very quickly.
Yeah, one of the things about clearing the energy, clearing any judgments around it, is it actually allows you to make a different choice.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in judgment about how bad and horrible and terrible you are for whatever it was you did, then you've created an energy where you're apt to do it again just because you feel so bad, terrible, and horrible.
Right. Because you're putting so much energy into creating it as a reality that you are then going to live it again and again and again.
Yes. And you're making it so significant that you actually have to recreate it.
Yeah.
So no matter what it was, if you just go, wow, that was an amazing choice. You know what? That didn't create exactly what I wanted to create. Yeah. So I wonder what other choices I could make right now. And there's so much emphasis on how our past should create our future and we are our history. And it's all bunk.
Yeah.
You can choose to be an entirely different person today. And in fact, one of the tools that I give people is, if you had no past, who would you be right now?
Yeah.
And that's a great question to ask yourself when you wake up, in a very strange place for a variety of reasons. Okay, I'm going home. So if I didn't have a past, who would I be right now and what would I choose?
Yeah.
And I think that can go a long way to freeing people from all the ridiculous judgments and recriminations and all of those kinds of things.
Well, and another tool that I just find myself using so much at this time of year is interesting point of view. Okay, interesting point of view that Aunt Mary thinks I'm a terrible mother. Interesting point of view that I'm judging Uncle Harry for drinking too much. Whatever it is, again, you use interesting point of view on the judgments, the points of view that you see other people having or you having. And it's really easy. You just was like, okay, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. I shouldn't have drank so much. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And if you say that a few times to yourself, it really starts to change the energy. And just like using the clearing statement does, and like Marilyn said, what that does is it creates space for you to actually choose different, choose what works for you, be aware of what works for you.
Yeah, because it is all an interesting point of view.
Yeah.
And one of the things, we've talked before about seeing what nature does. I mean, only human beings create all this malarkey around blame and shame and guilt and should and ought and this. If an animal does something that doesn't work for them, they just don't do it again. I remember once
they don't judge themselves years afterwards.
Absolutely not. I remember once in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, which is this amazing class that Gary Douglas does. In fact, he's coming. He and Susie Godsey are getting together the first part of January and doing one near Dallas. And if you love animals, horses, anything, this is a must. It's on the Access Consciousness website. But anyway, he was doing, and he just changed with the horse, changed structurally and behaviorally something with his horse. And I asked him, I said, well, do we need to do restructuring, which is something that we do in Access, like if the person has created change during the bars, if they've let go of things, then we do restructuring to ensure that the changes will stay. So I said, do we need to do restructuring on this horse because he's made all these changes? He said, no, horses are not as stupid as people. They don't take back their limitations.
They don't say, I had this limitation for 20 years. I'm not giving it up.
Right. I took the trash out, but I'm going to bring it all back because it's good trash. Maybe there's some kernel of something in there.
There could be something valuable in there, and I'll keep it over in the corner and let it stink up the house.
Yeah, exactly, and stink up my life. Yeah.
Well, and I think we can't let this show end without also talking about who does this belong to.
I think that's great.
If you've ever been in a great mood and you go home or you walk into your office and there's like this, energy of tension and stress and anger, and you can feel it before you even walk in the door. That's you being aware. Everyone, all their emotions, all their thoughts, everything is an energy, and you're aware of it and you can pick up on it. And so if you're kind of going along having a great day and all of a sudden you're like, ask yourself, who does this belong to? Because chances are it's not yours. You're picking it up from somebody else who's stressed about the holidays. And so I use this all the time. And basically, if you ask yourself, who does this belong to? And it lightens up at all, at least part of it isn't yours.
Well, I have a story about that, a Christmas story about that, which was, and it happened when I'd first gotten into Access, but I had plenty of money, and I really only had like my mom to buy for and one or two friends. And I went to the mall, and I got my presents, but I was just sort of feeling yunkier and wonkier and all of that. And I walked out going, oh my God, I spent too much money, and what am I going to do? And how am I going to pay off my credit cards? And I'm like, wait a minute, I got plenty of money. I didn't overspend. But I picked up everything that most of the people in the mall were thinking.
That's awesome. That's a great example.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It was so clear for me that I've never doubted the efficacy of who does that belong to since then. And because it can be feelings, but can also be thoughts.
It can
totally.
be thoughts. And, and say it is. You ask, who does this belong to? And you get, it's not really mine. You could just say, return it to sender. Send it back. Return to sender 1,000-fold with consciousness attached.
Yes.
So we are just about done. So let me tell you guys about next week. Next week we're actually doing a pre-record about dealing with elves and rattlesnakes. And so you can listen to that. That'll be December 23rd. And then on December 30th, we're having our good friend Danielle Carter come and be on the show with us. We don't have a topic yet, but we know it's going to be
we kind of have a topic because she's like amazing with bodies and talking about bodies and giving a totally different perspective for bodies. So there's going to be the bodies are going to be in there somewhere.
Right. We don't have the title yet, but we know we're going to be talking about bodies and probably about how to not do terrible things to your body as you come off the holidays and decide you need to exercise and lose weight.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.